You know, the moment Christian Parker stepped into the Cowboys building, our defense got completely changed. Jerry Jones didn't hire CP just to follow someone else's strategy, but to shift the entire defensive identity. But it looks like PFF didn't believe that. They just dropped a projected depth chart, assuming the Cowboys are practicing the same old outdated defense. Let me tell you in detail what blunder they made in their depth chart and what Christian Parker is actually doing here. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So guys, before we get into who PFF got wrong and who they completely missed, let me just set the foundation here because this is important. Christian Parker is a 34-year-old rookie defensive coordinator. Think about that for a second. The guy is young, hungry, and he came in here with a completely fresh vision for this defense. And what he's building is not your grandfather's Cowboys defense. He's running a 3-4 hybrid, okay? That means 3 down linemen, an outside linebacker / edge on the side, and then 5 defensive backs on the field 70% of the time. The base defense and the nickel defense are basically mashed together into one system. That's the new identity now. That's what CP brought to this building. So when PFF comes out with a projected depth chart that has 4 down linemen and 3 linebackers like it's 2015 or something, I mean, you already know there's a problem. They're not even running the right defense formation, guys, not even close. And that's just the start of the issues with what they put out. Now, let me start with who they put wrong on the depth chart, and I'll start with the linebackers because this one honestly had me shaking my head. PFF has Marist Liufau projected as one of the starting linebackers. I'm going to let that sink in for a second. Marist Liufau is a starter. Look, I like the guy as a prospect, right? He came out of Notre Dame. He was drafted pretty high. And when they brought him in, I was like, okay, let's see what he can do. But you know what's actually happening with him right now? They're trying to move him to edge rusher outside linebacker in the 3-4. They're switching his position, okay? The Cowboys themselves are not even sure where he fits yet, and he's trying to learn a whole new role. So how in the world is he one of your 2 projected starting linebackers? That makes 0 sense. The actual starting linebackers you're looking at here are DeMarvion, Overshown, and then the trade pickup from the 49ers, D. Winters, who slides right in as that second starting linebacker. Those are your guys. Marist Liufau right now is more of a camp body situation where he's just trying to figure out his new position and honestly trying to make the roster, period. Starting linebacker is nowhere near where his ceiling sits right now in this system. And you know what's wild? If they wanted to get the most out of Marist Liufau, they should probably be looking at moving him to safety, right? That's where his skill set could actually translate. But even that conversation is secondary right now because the bottom line is PFF has him penciled in as a starter when he's really fighting just to find his role. Every Cowboys fan watching this already knew that. You didn't even need me to tell you. That's how off PFF's projection is. Okay, so now shifting gears a little bit and moving to the secondary, because there's also a debate happening at safety that I want to get into. Look, Jalen Thompson is pretty much locked in. That's not really a discussion. And Caleb Downs is locked in as well in that safety slot corner type of role that Parker's system uses. But the real question is that other safety spots. PFF has Malik Hooker in there, which is reasonable, you know, but there are people floating the idea that PJ Locke could actually beat him out and start. I mean, it's possible, right? PJ Locke is a good player. But the reality is PJ Locke was not brought to Dallas to come in and beat Hooker. That's not why they signed him. He's here to add depth, to compete, to push guys. But the plan was always Malik Hooker in that starting spot. Now, could PJ Locke earn that job if he outplays him in camp? Sure. Competition is real, but projecting him as a starter right now is getting ahead of what the Cowboys actually want to do there. Then they also had Marquez Bell somewhere in their secondary mix. And look, I've been saying for a while now that Marquez Bell's time here is running thin. He's had the offseason issues. You know what I'm talking about. Beyond that, though, even on the football side, they tried him at linebacker. He got ran all over, moved him back to safety. And now the Cowboys have brought in a whole new group of guys. Christian Parker, Jalen Thompson, PJ Locke. They've got year 2 players stepping up like Elijah Clark, who I really like and think is going to take that next step. Where exactly does Bell fit in all of that? Honestly, I think he's hanging on by a thread at this point. Okay, now, not only defense, PFF also made big mistakes in the offense depth chart as well, particularly on wide receivers. They have 3 starting wide receivers listed. CeeDee Lamb, obviously, George Pickens, obviously, and then their third receiver, they went with Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I mean, what, guys? Marquez Valdes-Scantling is not your third wide receiver. He is not even close to being in that conversation. Look at his recent history. Last year, he was in Seahawks training camp. They needed wide receivers, and he still couldn't make that roster. Then he had a brief stint with the 49ers, then the Steelers. He's here now, but he is not here to compete for a starting job. Not even in the same area code as that conversation. Every single Cowboys fan watching this video right now, every single person who follows this team knows exactly who the third receiver is. It's Ryan Flournoy. That is not a competition. That's settled. Ryan Flournoy is your guy at that third spot. PFF genuinely cannot figure out something that the entire Cowboys fan base has known for a while now. And you know what makes you wonder? Is anybody over there actually watching film on this team? And while we're talking about guys on the fringe of this roster, you know PFF is also projecting the tight end situation in a way that doesn't reflect what the Cowboys are actually doing at that position. They were shopping for tight ends as early as the first and second round. They brought in Michael Trigg and DJ Rogers, both highly rated guys. DJ Rogers can genuinely play, man. Good hands, solid route tree, look really clean coming out of college, and Michael Trigg brings another dimension to it, though he's more of an X factor in terms of staying focused and locked in with the playbook. Meanwhile, the Cowboys have been moving away from the older guys at tight end who haven't produced, the roster is turning over, and PFF's depth chart doesn't really capture that movement at all. So the fundamental problem with PFF's depth chart that makes everything else fall apart is that they drew it up as a 4-3 defense. As I explained to you in detail, that what is 4-3 defense? It's 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, 4 defensive backs. That is just not what this team is. Christian Parker is not running that. 70% of the time, you're going to see 5 defensive backs on the field. The base and nickel are combined. It's a 3-4 hybrid, and it's a completely different animal than what PFF projected. You can't just transpose an old Cowboys defensive lineup onto a new coordinator system and call it a projection. That's not an analysis. That's just a guess. And the wild thing is, you don't need to be inside the building to know this. This information is out there. Cowboys fans know it. People who actually follow this team know it. Somehow the people at PFF putting this together just either didn't do the research or hit some kind of auto-generate button and called it a day. I mean, look, I've been covering every move this team makes, every camp update, every depth chart shuffle, because that's what we do here. And I can tell you with full confidence that Christian Parker's system is going to look nothing like what PFF projected. The linebackers are wrong. The wide receivers are wrong. The safety situation is at least debatable, and the entire defensive formation is wrong. 4 things. Big things, and every one of you watching this already knew all 4 of them without me even having to say it. That's what makes this so frustrating, because it's not complicated stuff. It's not inside baseball that requires a source. It just requires paying attention to this team. DeMarvion, Overshown, and D. Winters at linebacker, Ryan Flournoy at third receiver, Malik Hooker at safety with PJ Locke pushing him, and a 3-4 hybrid defense running under a 34-year-old coordinator who has completely reshaped how this team plays on that side of the ball. That's your Cowboys defense in 2025, not whatever PFF cooked up. And the thing is, we have discussed before that Jerry Jones gave full authority to Christian Parker in free agency and draft so he can bring whoever he wants and produce results. In fact, if I say develop a system that the Cowboys can run for many years, some pieces are there, but there are a few holes still in the roster that I believe the Cowboys will fill before week 1. I will also look into it in the upcoming video. So let me know in the comments what you think about PFF's depth chart projection. Do you agree with me, or do you think they got something right? Drop it below. See you in the next one.